the comedy show where Americans in America covering American news are called foreign agents. Every year, Martin Luther King Day rolls around and our corrupt, hypocritical, diseased, disgusting politicians fight over who can claim Martin Luther King the most. This year, even the FBI tweeted, "Today the FBI honors the life and work of Martin Luther King Jr." A quote by Dr. King is etched in stone at the FBI Academy's Reflection Garden in Quantico as a reminder to all students and FBI employees, the time is always right to do what is right. Now that is the single funniest goddamn tweet I've ever seen. As if anyone at the FBI has ever reflected on something. If you pull that tweet up on your laptop, don't do it, all right? If you do, you'll hear the scream of a dying bunny rabbit and pus oozes out. That tweet is truly incredible considering our government assassinated Martin Luther King Jr., okay? And that is not me saying that, because I know you don't trust me. Hell, I don't trust me, all right? Well, one time I left me alone with myself, and I did very naughty things. Anyway, how do I know our government killed MLK? It was the verdict of the only trial ever held concerning his death. And before you say anything, yes, there was a trial. And no, you didn't hear about it. And yes, every mainstream media outlet refuses to talk about it even today. Although the New York Times did sheepishly report on it back when it happened in 1999. They tried to bury it and pretended it didn't really matter. Ho-hum, just the most famous, respected, crucial, one of the most famous, respected, crucial leaders in American history, murdered by our own government. Nothing to see here, you know? Well, we'll put it on page D12 behind the story about how people under 25 are eating avocado toast. If you don't believe that news of that trial is important, then what do you find important? I mean, they could find the Lindbergh baby inside Jimmy Hoffa's rectum, and it wouldn't be more important. Here's what happened. 20 years ago, a jury heard from 70 witnesses, including Lloyd Jowers, the guy who owned the bar where the shots were fired from. By 1999, Jowers had come forward and said he assisted the gunman in the murder, and the gunman was not James Earl Ray, as we've all been told. It was a Memphis police officer. In fact, Coretta Scott King and the King family also believe James Earl Ray was innocent. It only took the jury 1 hour to come back with a verdict that said Jowers, along with government agencies, had killed Dr. King. But that wasn't enough for the New York Times, so they said the trial was stupid. The reporters even went out of their way to mention more than once that one of the jurors had nodded off at one point. Because the true indicator of a real trial is how exciting it is. Whether it has your nipples hard. You know, that's what matters. Do you understand how boring as shit most trials are? I've fallen asleep 10 times trying to watch the impeachment trial of our president. I've also pissed myself twice, vomited once, and shat myself 13 times, but no, the New York Times is a dumpster fire now, and it was a dumpster fire back in 1999. So the question now is, why did our government decide Martin Luther King had to be taken out? Well, it wasn't just his work with civil rights. In the final year of his life, Martin Luther King began speaking out strongly against Vietnam, against militarism, against the innocent civilians we were bombing, and against capitalism. Here are some quotes from MLK. See if they're the same ones you read in your third grade history books. He said, "We must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? And when you ask that question, you are raising questions about the economic system, about the distribution of wealth. When you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy." He also said, "We must see now that the evils of racism, economic exploitation, and militarism are all tied together. You can't get rid of one without getting rid of others, of the others. The whole structure of American life must be changed. And he declared, the evils of capitalism are as real as the evils of militarism and racism. If America does not use her vast resources of wealth to end poverty and make it possible for all of God's children to have the basic necessities of life, she too will go to hell. And he said that only 2 weeks before his assassination. But those are not the quotes you hear nowadays. No, nowadays people pretend the only thing he ever said was, I love you, you love me, we're a happy family. Our bullshit culture has succeeded in turning a revolutionary man into Barney the fucking dinosaur, all right? All of those quotes from MLK were in the final year of his life. But maybe it's the reverse. Maybe because of those quotes, it became the final year of his life. And in the final 18 months of his life, MLK also said about Vietnam, we cannot remain silent as our nation engages in one of history's most cruel and senseless wars. We need dissenters because the thunder of their fearless voices will be the only sound stronger than the blasts of bombs and the clamor of war hysteria. Those of us who love peace must organize as effectively as the Warhawks. As they spread the propaganda of war, we must spread the propaganda of peace. We must combine the fervor of the civil rights movement with the peace movement. We must demonstrate, teach, and preach until the very foundations of our nation are shaken. I'm sure that's the quote Donald Trump and Mike Pence were thinking about when they went to the MLK Memorial this week. No, I think it's far more likely Trump was thinking, give me a break, give me a break, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. Kit Kats. The real Martin Luther King Jr. was the revolutionary Martin Luther King Jr., the one you're not supposed to talk about in the mixed company, the one that's reserved for the back rooms and the dark alleys, the one that had to be stopped, had to be shut up, had to be silenced, had to be closed off and shut down. That's not the one our military intelligence machine is tweeting nice things about. That's the one our military intelligence machine had murdered. Coming to you from Washington, D.C., the belly of the beast is Redacted tonight.
Let's roll, never get their control. They got their money, but we got our soul. Let's roll, never get their control. They got their money, but we got our soul.
Welcome. I'm Lee Camp. Now let's take the news from behind. Groundbreaking journalist Glenn Greenwald has been charged with cyber crimes in Brazil. Why? Because he revealed extreme corruption within the Brazilian government. Corruption that was used to imprison the left-wing leader Lula da Silva in order to pave the way for Brazil's far-right president and Count Dracula's less attractive half-brother, Jair Bolsonaro. I wonder where the fascists in Brazil got the idea to try to imprison a journalist for revealing their crimes by accusing said journalist of mysterious cyber crimes. I can't think of any other example of someone who revealed the disgusting underbelly of our rulers and then was imprisoned for bullshit. All right? Glenn Greenwald has said he can't leave his house without security. I can't think of any journalist that the ruling elite hate so much they threatened to do harm to the guy. Oh, except for when Hillary Clinton said she wanted to drone bomb Julian Assange. But she was kidding, all right? After she found out the military wouldn't do it, she was kidding. But this attack on Intercept co-founder Glenn Greenwald is so disgusting that every so-called journalist in America should be speaking out against it. Of course, we don't have any journalists in our mainstream media anymore. We have hacks. We have hacks who are utter cowards. And I won't say they don't have balls, because that plays into the patriarchal stereotype of testicles equaling strength and courage and wisdom and the ability to install a fucking ceiling fan. I mean, as if women can't have strength. That's ridiculous. Anyone who says that has never been punched by a woman after you congratulate her on her pregnancy when she's not pregnant. No, I think many women have far more courage than men. So instead of saying our mainstream media hacks don't have balls, I'll say they don't have the vaginas to stand up against the persecution of journalists who reveal the corruption of the powerful. They barely have any vaginas at all. They have tiny little vaginas that look like eyelids. Anyway, we should keep paying attention to this story and to the ongoing imprisonment of Julian Assange as his extradition hearing comes up in a few weeks. Staying on the subject of news our rulers really don't want you talking about, the collapsing narrative of a chemical attack in Syria took yet another step toward oblivion. A team leader for the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons testified at the UN that no chemical attack took place in Douma, Syria, despite what the US media and the OPCW reported back in April 2018. So for those of you playing along at home, that's the Syrian chemical attack did not happen. Iraq did not have WMDs. The North Vietnamese did not attack US ships in the Gulf of Tonkin. But Iran totally did have plans for imminent attacks on American embassies. They did. They did. Of course they did. Our government just can't show you the evidence yet because they chewed it up and swallowed it to stop Iran from getting it. Yep. I mean, look at Mike Pompeo. Do you honestly believe he wouldn't eat something? But the Trump administration is not only lying to the American people, they're also giving the American people lots of money, okay? Donald Trump has repeatedly bragged that he's giving away his taxpayer-funded salary as president of the United States.
I give away my salary. It's, I guess, close to $450,000. I give it away. Nobody ever said he gives away his salary. Now it comes up because of this. But I give away my presidential salary. They say that no other president has done it. I'm surprised, to be honest with you.
What a noble and generous man. Maybe since Trump doesn't want the money, we can use it to pay for the $115 million his golf trips have cost us, which amounts to 287 years of presidential salary. And many millions of that money goes back into Trump's own pockets because taxpayers pay for Secret Service and White House staff to stay and eat at his golf resorts. You know, it's good. It's good to see that he's found so much time to play golf, because there were some idiots out there who claimed he wouldn't have time for it.
Because I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf. And believe me,
Obama ought to get off the golf course and get down there.
I love golf. I think it's one of the greats, but I don't have time.
Turns out letting the United States collapse under a mountain of Wall Street greed and corporate corruption doesn't take as much time in the office as you might think. Yeah. I mean, especially big business exploiting the working class, it really just takes care of itself. For example, Apple has finally admitted that customers repairing iPhones is bad for their profits. CEO Tim Cook revealed this in a letter this month to investors, and Vice News reports Apple has long fought efforts that would make iPhones easier to repair. It has lobbied against right to repair. It doesn't sell iPhone replacement parts. It sued an independent repair professional in Norway, and it has deals with electronics recyclers that require them to shred iPhones and MacBooks. But Tim Cook also said in order to make up for the losses they've suffered, Apple is unveiling its new Destroyer program, in which employees walk around town just grabbing people's iPhones and smashing them. Sure, it might piss some people off, but it's a pretty good job if you can get it. I mean, I've been doing it for free for a long time now, so. Does anyone else notice that Apple's aversion to repair might be a bit of a flaw in capitalism. Corporations want their products to collapse quickly so that people buy more. Does that sound like a sustainable economic model to you? Sounds about as sustainable as a cage filled with a family of guinea pigs and a large snake. It's sustainable for the snake, less so for the hamsters. In capitalism, we're the hamsters! Or guinea pigs, I don't know the fucking difference. So what happens when you have a corrupt president at his golf resorts, corporations controlling the system, and workers completely exploited? Well, usually the working class people start to go, hey, I've got an idea. Let's get angry. Let's throw bags of shit at them. So then the powerful people go, we need to make sure they don't throw bags of shit at us. We need to surveil them. And we all know that they've been watching us, they watch our phones, they watch our social media posts, but that's not enough. That doesn't always tell them when we're out on the streets, when we're on the move. So now the defense industry is preparing to test fly domestic versions of its combat drones over major American cities. The Poway, California-based defense contractor General Atomics Aeronautical Systems, Inc. will test fly its Sky Guardian drone outfitted with a 79-foot wingspan and advanced surveillance capabilities of more than 2,000 feet over San Diego, California sometime this year. Something tells me that drone isn't going to do good things for you and me. I can't really picture it being used to remind me where I parked my car last night, or which path to take to avoid running into my ex-girlfriend on the sidewalk. Nothing says, don't worry, we have your best interest at heart, like a hovering death machine named Sky Guardian. I mean, if you're going to do horrifying shit, can't you guys at least trick us a little? You know, name the fucking thing Fluffy Cloud Glider or something. Oh, I've got it. Name it not a military-grade drone. Then we could have news headlines that say, not a military-grade drone was seen flying above your neighborhood, reminding you that you left your car at a strip club. That would make me proud to be an American, really would. We have to go to a short break, but Philadelphia, I'll be performing live this weekend. Tickets and details at redactedtour.com. And New York City, my book release event will be March 7th at the Strand Books in Manhattan. Reserve your spot at redactedtour.com. I'll be right back with a lot more. Welcome back. I'm still Lee Camp. This week, thousands of pro-Second Amendment activists, including a fair share of white supremacists, have descended on Richmond, Virginia to protest new gun control legislation. This comes after weeks of death threats against Virginia delegate and redheaded socialist Lee Carter, who had to skip Monday's legislative session for his own safety. For more, we're joined by our redheaded socialist correspondent, Anders Lee.
Hey, Anders Lee here. Definitely not Lee Carter. I am a ginger named Lee, originally from Virginia, a Virginger Lee, if you will. No relation to Robert E., but I am not Lee Carter. I am Anders Lee.
Wait, I'm also a Lee from Virginia. Should I be worried too? How did this whole thing start?
Well, Delegate Lee Carter, who is not me, has introduced a bill to repeal an over 60-year-old law that prevents public employees in Virginia from striking. After fellow lawmakers expressed concerns over public safety, Carter adjusted the legislation to exclude police officers.
Wait, making sure police stay on the job is good for public safety? That doesn't sound right. Have they ever met a cop in Virginia?
I know, they should be going on strike all the time. Extra bonus if they forget their guns at home. Unfortunately, though, Delegate Carter has had to ask for police protection after conspiracy theorists spun his bill into a broader narrative that the state's Democratic governor was working to confiscate Virginians' guns, and that Carter's new legislation was designed to fire cops who don't confiscate guns.
What did his bill have to do with gun confiscation?
Nothing. But that hasn't stopped right-wing media from misrepresenting it. Even the Wall Street Journal has claimed that it requires police officers who don't enforce the statute being fired. That's from the Wall Street Journal. They're supposed to be lying about Trump's economic numbers. Not gun stuff. Mass shootings are not good for the market.
So why can't someone correct the record, like another state official or something?
Well, Lee Carter would like them to, as would I, since yet again, I am not him. But unfortunately, Carter has said that some of these rumors are coming from police unions and even a fellow Republican state lawmaker, all people, he said, who should be able to accurately read legislation.
He expects Republicans to be able to read.
It's a good point. In fact, his opponents are more fond of pictures. This is what they used against him during his first run in 2017.
Looking good.
He's received hundreds of death threats, including some from police officers, which have caused him to seek shelter in a safe house. He knows he can't count on the police or his fellow office holders whose corruption he's fighting against. Fortunately, though, he does have one group in his corner, and that's the people of Manassas, who re-elected him in November against Republican Ian Lovejoy with 53% of the vote. That's an official photo.
Sure it is. And how did the people of Virginia feel about the gun rally on Monday?
Well, before the rally, 7 neo-Nazis were arrested and revealed to have allegedly discussed opening fire, which made Virginians a bit skeptical. According to Carter, by tag-teaming with fascists, they strengthened the liberals' resolve to pass gun control bills, actively making it harder to achieve the thing they said they wanted. Just goes to show, you can mess with us for Ginger Lees all you want, but we'll get the last laugh.
Anders Lee, everybody! Moving on. Activists in Louisiana and Texas have filed lawsuits against companies that pollute in their region. The surprising part is that these companies are based in other countries. For more on this raging controversy, we go to Redacted correspondent Naomi Caravani.
Plastic pollution. There's so much more to it than plastic bags and bottles, used tampon applicators, and those floss pick things. Do people even floss that much? Or are they just throwing them in obvious places to seem like they're flossing regularly? There's also the lesser-known byproduct of the plastic manufacturing process that gets dumped by the ton in oceans and waterways. Plastic pellets called nurdles, which I will refer to as plastic pellets from now on. I can't say nurdles with a straight face. It's toxic waste, but sounds so cute, like it could be a nickname for a small, bookish gerbil. I take that back. That's terrifying. In the U.S., some citizens are alarmed by the amount of plastic pollution. But don't worry, the government lowered standards, so there's fewer violations and therefore fewer reasons to be alarmed. The standards are so low that a plastics giant that pollutes too much for Taiwan is turning to America. Give us not your tired, nor your poor. Give us your non-biodegradable trash. A plastics manufacturer that's been slammed with fines in China is expanding operations in America. The Formosa Plastic Corporation has already been fined for discharging billions of plastic pellets in waterways in Texas. But it's a company depositing refuse. It's not like a person littering or dumping, which we all know is highly illegal in or near rivers. Sometimes it's a little too restrictive. For so long, Asian countries were willing to sacrifice environmental concerns for development, which was a fair exchange. But now, China says it will ban plastics that pollute its land and water, which includes blacklisting companies that flout the plastics ban. Okay, China, but here in the U.S., we've already been shamed into no longer using plastic straws. Though I have to admit, I do not like the replacements. The paper straws are pathetic. And the metal straws, I think we're really sending a message to those turtles, like, we're gonna finish the job next time. Alarmed at the changed regulatory atmosphere in Asia, companies like Formosa have turned to the U.S., which is getting less restrictive as politicians are getting friendlier and friendlier to industries that pollute. You can't create jobs without cracking a few rivers. Formosa plans a $9 billion plant in Louisiana. a giant complex to make petrochemicals used in products such as playground equipment, drainage pipes, and artificial turf. The company calls it the Sunshine Project, which is brilliant when you think about it. How about instead of the BP oil spill, we call it the Babysitters Club? In nearby Point Comfort, Texas, Formosa was ordered to pay a $50 million fine for disposing their toxic Dippin' Dots into nearby waterways. This was the largest settlement in history resulting from an environmental lawsuit led by a citizen. The citizen was Diane Wilson, a retired shrimper who was nice enough to bring a news anchor along in her kayak.
How many pellets are going into the water on a daily basis?
They managed to scoop up 79 billion in 2 years.
Nurdle patrols everywhere, like those led by Diane Wilson, have new confidence thanks to this lawsuit. But why do the work of picking them up from the beach? You should have kids find them like seashells. I'm sure when you stick a handful of plastic pellets in your ear, you hear the sound of plastic manufacturing. Or the screams of people as the world ends. Wait, no, I hear these things are getting stuck in my ear. Okay. The $50 million settlement amount won't make much of a dent to the bottom line of Formosa Plastic Group, which last year reported $12.1 billion in pre-tax profit. However, we still need more people like Wilson, the pellet picker-upper, to demand that these corporations and the government they control are held accountable, to make sure that these insidious plastic pellets don't end up in our water and our shorelines. Because someone might pick them up and stick them in their ear. Reporting from Nurdle Beach, Texas, I'm Naomi Caravani. Redacted tonight. Maybe they'll come out the other side. Oh.
Here are your headlines from the future. Tomorrow you'll read: Donald Trump quietly ruminates over whether it's insulting or flattering that he's being impeached for the least of his crimes. And in 1 month, you'll learn: Apple CEO Tim Cook unveils scheme to have older iPhones lightly shock owners until they buy a new one. And on Monday, in honor of impeachment trial, Food Network airs best dishes to pair with diarrhea. That's our show, but my new book is now shipping out to people who pre-ordered it. Go to leecampbook.com to grab a copy. It's comedies, politics, breaking news, everything. leecampbook.com. Until next time, good